Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. My name is Kristen Urisic-Scott, and I'm your SEPC Education Co-Chair. Thank you for getting up early this morning and joining us for our session this morning, Recruiting and Retaining Multi-Generational Talent. First, I wanted to thank our sponsors because without them, this wouldn't be possible. For our first education session, we have Sambazon, and the refreshment area is sponsored by And Now You Know. Be sure to complete the app surveys. If you haven't downloaded the app, be sure to do that. We'd love to hear your feedback on the sessions as we go through the day. Thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and kick it off to Claudia St. John. Claudia is a founder and president of Affinity HR Group, a national human resources and management consulting firm specializing in hiring, recruiting, HR compliance, and employee engagement. Affinity HR Group is the endorsed HR partner and resource for more than 17 national trade associations and their member companies. As a consultant and frequent speaker, Claudia has given hundreds of presentations and workshops on topics on how to recruit like a pro, common management mistakes, employee engagement, and multi-generational workplace challenges. She is the author of the Amazon best-selling book, Transforming Teams, Tips for Improving Collaboration and Building Trust. And her weekly HR Minute emails and monthly articles are followed by thousands of business leaders nationwide. Thank you, and here you go, Claudia.
Thanks, Kristen. Hi, everybody. How are you? Good morning. This is so exciting to actually be in the same space with somebody. I know I've given over 100 presentations in the last 18 months from my spare bedroom. So you're the first people I've actually seen. And I have to tell you, I was riddled all night last night with stress dreams, I can't get out of my house and I have to be there in 5 minutes. Literally, I had that dream about 15 times. So I'm glad I'm here, and I'm glad you're here as well. And thank you, SEPC, for inviting me. So we're here today to talk about hiring challenges. And hiring and engaging. So how many of you have had a little bit of struggle? I didn't even finish the sentence. A little bit of difficulty hiring people. That hand went up in the back as fast as possible. Anybody not having any hiring challenges? All right, that's really the more relevant question. So we're all facing this exact same crisis. And what I will tell you is that you're facing it in your industry. Everyone is facing it in every single industry. There really is not a sector of the labor movement or of the industry, of the economy, that isn't facing that same challenge. So my goal today is to talk with you a little bit about what's behind that challenge, what you can do uniquely and differently to appeal to the people that you want to hire, and also to focus on engaging. So my goal, I hope that you walk away from here with some really good ideas, at least 2 or 3, that you can use to attract and hire, and the flip side of that coin, retain the talent that you want, because the competition for that is fierce. So that's my goal. I do have some handouts that are at your desk or at your seats, and I will refer to them as we go through them for you. But what I'm going to say is, to preface everything, we've all been through a collective trauma, right? Everybody is going through a collective trauma. Just flying down here, I noticed that there were things that were not in the airport, things when I was trying to pack that I couldn't find because supply chains are all disrupted. I wanted to go and grab some coffee on the way, but my coffee shop was closed because I couldn't find staff. We're still kind of, everywhere you turn, there is some lingering remnant of this trauma that we've all been through. And you often hear the expression, we're all in the same storm, or we're all in the same boat. We're not all in the same boat. My trauma was very real over the last 18 months, and so was yours. And, whether you had by societal definition, a big trauma, such as a death or loss of a job or some other major catastrophe, or just coming to terms with the fact that we can't trust a lot of the things that we used to feel like we could trust, like our supply chains, like our governmental institutions, like our healthcare system, like each other. These are all traumas that we're all dealing with. That's relevant for this conversation today because everybody that you want to hire and each and every one of your employees has been through trauma and is still going through trauma. And if we don't understand it and appreciate it, then we can't address it and take care of them. So this expression that we're all in the same boat is wrong. We are all in the same storm. And each and every one of us is in a different boat. And it's affecting us differently. So what I want you to do is to think about what is the condition of your current employees? What boat are they in? What is happening with their boat? Are they struggling to raise children? Are they excited to get their career going but can't quite get out there because of business? Focus on their boat because their boat is where you will speak to them. If you can address their boat, if you can ask them about their boat, then they will sense that you care about them. And you can actually start speaking a language that would attract and retain them. So this is a sort of a metaphor that I would like you to keep in your mind. So why are we having this labor challenge? What's happening? Why do we have this labor shortage? What do you think? Unemployment, always number one, right? The enhanced unemployment benefit. What other reasons? Just that? Childcare issues, absolutely. Mothers, some fathers, but oftentimes mothers struggling to do that family life balance. What other reasons? There's got to be reasons because literally it's happening across the country. Greater demand for work and competition, right? Anything else? Well, yes, expanded unemployment benefit, but that doesn't explain it all because many states, more than 33 states, have already eliminated those expanded federal unemployment benefits, and they set to expire this month. Actually, I think they may already have the 6th, right? So those are gone. So that doesn't explain it all. Continued COVID hesitancy. And, COVID's not going away, apparently. We all read the news this morning about the new requirement for companies of over 100 having to vaccinate or test their employees. So a lot of folks they're concerned about it and they're not ready to go back to the office. They're not ready to go back to work in whatever capacity that is. We also have childcare, which Kristen already talked about, the difficulty of trying to balance that family life. Competition. You are competing against some major competitors. For your entry-level workers, you're competing against FedEx, Amazon, big box retailers, Walmart, McDonald's. There's a fast food store called Core. It's like a salad place. They're starting at $18.75 an hour, right? To make salad bowls. Compared to what they do for you, I imagine that's an easier gig. So you're competing at that level. And then for your more senior level positions, they've all been working from home for the last 18 months. So they don't really need to be geographically located near you, right? That means that your competition is not in your own backyard. It could be literally across the country. So the competition for your employees is fierce. We also have a shrinking working population. This is one of those things that I was like, whoa, this is bad. I mean, good, but bad. So baby boomers, they were all going to sort of plan their retirement, and then came the economic crisis of 2008, and they're like, that's probably going to be on hold for a while. And they also found that continuing to work kept them healthy, kept them young, kept them engaged. But after COVID, they're all retiring. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but I'm stunned. Like, within the last week or two, I've had 3 baby boomers who are not that much older than I am. They're like, yeah, bye. I'm going on retirement and I'm really excited about it. It's really shocking. Have you all experienced that with these baby boomers that are all of a sudden retiring? Yeah? It's a surprise. And the problem is the generation behind them that's supposed to replace them, the Gen Zs, the youngest of us here, There aren't that many of you because you're my generation's babies. I'm a Gen X, and there weren't that many of us. So if there weren't that many of us, there aren't that many of you. So trying to figure out that we are going to continue with a shrinking labor pool. So that continues with that challenge. And again, this desire for flexibility, either flexibility on-site, wanting to work maybe compressed work weeks, or just have more time to do other things in your life, whether that's a production or hourly frontline worker or your office staff. Everybody wants a little bit more flexibility. And finally, there's this concept of the bored out. And I will admit, I own my own company, and I've thought about quitting, but you can't quit your own company. And if I've thought about quitting my own company, then I imagine that many of you may have had a fleeting glint of like, maybe I just don't want to do this anymore. The reason for that, one of the reasons for that, is that maybe you're just bored, and that's my problem. I like my job. I'm just a little bored. Why am I bored? It's my job. I can literally do what I want. When we have tried to protect ourselves against this storm, you know, sometimes it's just too much. I remember last summer when all of a sudden the Postal Service was going to go away before the election. And, you know, then we've got COVID and we've got, you know, global warming and all of these storms and fires and swamps and like, it just became too much. It just became too much for me personally. So I kind of kept in my lane. I'm not going to pay attention to that, and I'm not going to pay attention to that. I don't want to hear about anyone's politics. I don't want to hear about any of this stuff. Like, can we just go day by day? But the problem is when you try to mute your emotions, your feelings on one extreme, you also kind of mute them on the other. You don't get to pick and choose. And if you've been living in a space of trying to control your emotional environment and what you care about for 18 months, you get a little numb. And that's really what a lot of this is. It's called the Great Bored Out, and it's also called the Great Recession, or the Great Resignation. I can't speak. But all of these are kind of indicative of, we've all been through a trauma. Let's reassess what we want to do here. I tell you all of this not to share my own pathetic journey, but I'm happy to always share my own pathetic journey. But the purpose of doing this is to recognize that all of your employees and all of your potential employees are going through something like this. They're just in a different boat. It just looks slightly different for them. But we're all going through that trauma. What we know for a fact is that employees want, what am I doing? See, I always mess this up. They want basically 4 major things. All employees want flexibility now. All of them. They want flexibility of time. They want flexibility of work. They want flexibility of opportunity. They don't necessarily all want to work from home all the time, but you know, once every couple of weeks would be nice. Once every few weeks, it would be nice if I could work 4 days, a compressed 4 days, or what Iceland is doing, 4-day work weeks. Not compressed, not 4 10s, 4-day work weeks. Proper 4-day work weeks. Literally everybody wants that. I know I want it. I'm sure you want it. And it may look different. Every single one of you know that compensation is really rough, right? Not a single one of you has not faced the fact that pay needs to go up. I'm pretty sure about that, right? Anybody want to contrast that? No, right? Minimum wages are going up. That competition we talked about is fierce. We are full-service recruiters. My company has full-service recruiting and headhunting. It is shocking how employers are struggling. They want this talent. And what are they asking? 25% more than the employer was ready to give. But they have to hire those people, right? They can't not pay them. They need that talent, so then they hire them, and guess what? Now you have a real internal equity problem because you just hired somebody at 25% more than somebody would have been getting, and now you've got all your compensation whacked out. So people want pay. It's a challenge for employers, but it is a driving issue. Having security of job, stability. We've seen a lot of things go away. We've seen a lot of things go up and down. Your ability to speak to them about having that stability and security is going to be important. And then, of course, they want opportunities to grow. This is what employees want, regardless of what level. All of the data speak to this. They want that flexibility. But this is a presentation about generational issues. So let's talk about generation. So in your session, in your conference in the spring, you had a great panel discussion about multi-generations. And I thought it was really great, and I thought the definitions that they used were really great. So I'm going to kind of just stick with that. And I think it's kind of good to visualize that generational profile. Why are we focusing on this? Because if you want to attract and retain employees, you need to know who they are, what drives them, and speak to them specifically. Because if you don't, someone else will. So when I think about these folks, and of course, all of you fit into one of these generations, right? We're all generationally bound, so we're all in here somewhere. I hope I don't offend. When we speak of generations, we're always generalizing, so hopefully I won't offend anybody in that regard. But these are good examples of those typical generations. I want to go through them very quickly, and I want to go through them because I want to give you, and I gave you this sheet for that, I want to give you some ideas about what each of these generations are looking for, where you're going to find them, and how you might speak to them. Okay, so that's where we're going right now. So, the silent generation. These folks, how many of you still have silent generations working with you and around you? No? Just maybe some of your legacy owners, maybe from when the company was founded. Basically, they're looking for consistency and conformity. They are very command and control. They respect authority. They respect discipline. And they really are focused on sharing their life's experiences as a way to understand the future. They look to the past. These are very, very loyal, dedicated employees. There are very few of them in the workplace today. Then we've got the boomers. These boomers, they were the very first kind of like burn your bra women in the workplace, get on out there and strike forward, kind of breaking glass ceilings, if you will. They're really all about teams. They focus on individual choice. They love to work together. They're adaptive. They like collaboration, and they're kind of conflict avoidant. These are your baby boomers. These are the folks who are currently contemplating retirement or within retirement age. Then there's my generation, the best generation, the greatest generation ever. We're also called the forgotten generation because nobody cares about us. I don't know why. No one cares about us at all. But we are the original latchkey kids. Nobody really paid that much attention to us, so we just kind of figured it out on our own. Highly adaptable, quality ends. We tend to be a little bit more individual contributor. We tend to kind of figure out, what do you need me to do? And I'll just go and do it, and then we'll come back and collaborate. Not a lot of team kumbaya necessarily. We do seek autonomy. We dig authority, but we're not particularly impressed with it. And we are technically competent. We did have computers in college. So we were among the first generation to have that technical ability through our education. Then we have the Gen X or Gen Y and millennials. We know a lot about that. I don't know how many presentations I've given about millennials. Like, the universe has just wanted to know and understand millennials. I feel like everybody knows a millennial at this point, but we'll go into it really quickly. They're very team-oriented. They do believe in self-actualization and their own journey. Where are they going? What do they need? They have seen their parents dedicate their lives to their employers and have those employers change that up on them. So they're not willing to do that same thing. They really are focused on what they want out of life and where they're going. And their baby boomer parents support that as well. They are optimistic, and thank God, because you've got to be entering this kind of dumpster fire of a political and economic and environmental situation that we have right now. They're tenacious, they're tech savvy, and they care about their world, and they believe they can change it. And their world might include your company. They want a seat at the table, and they're excited to have a seat at the table. Oops, I keep doing that. And then, of course, there's Gen Z. I have two of these, and they are really interesting. They do their individualized work, and of course, they are the most technical savvy population there is, but they also want face-to-face communication. Everybody said, oh, well, these people, they're growing up with their phones. They're never going to get out of their basements. No, they crave it. They want to have that in-person communication. They're competitive. They're pretty risk-averse. They're slightly pessimistic because they don't really know, they don't really trust what's being said to them. They want proof. They want evidence. They crave authenticity. If you come in and say, well, this is the way it used to be, they're like, yeah, right. I mean, my generation would never do that. We would say, oh, okay, well, that's what you say, then that's what it is. This is a generation that is much more looking for folks to be authentic about the good and the bad. And then they are seeking a work-life balance. Okay. So, did I get this right? Gen Zs. Are there any Gen Zs in here? Nope. All right, well, then I can just make it up. Millennials. What did I say that makes sense? Does this work? Does this speak to you? Yep. You guys are very quiet this morning. All right, don't make me work too hard. So you have a piece of paper. What I want to think about is, what do these folks want from a job? What do they want from you right now? If you're looking to go and find these people, what boat are they in? And how do we speak to that boat? So if you're looking for a traditional or the silent generation, or the silent generation? No, that's us. They want to contribute. They just want to feel a part of something. They want to share their experience. They're looking for an opportunity where they can impart some knowledge, where they can connect with others, where they can have some meaningful role, but that's flexible, right? They're not looking for, an 80-hour work week. They're looking to be a part. And if you haven't thought about hiring this generation, you might want to. Because there may be roles, administrative roles, functional roles, supervisory roles. There may be a role for this generation for you, especially recognizing that there aren't a lot of excess people walking around to hire. If you're looking to hire a baby boomer, really, they want a hard work, but at this point, they're either at the top of their career and about to exit, or they're looking to do something new and exciting. And if you can imagine where they want to go and what they want to do, and imagine an opportunity that fits into your workplace, they will be all over that. Because again, a lot of these folks are looking to retire, but they know they need to stay engaged. We all know that people need to stay engaged. And this is a really big population. There are a lot of these folks. So if you can imagine a benefit, a program, even a segment, take one of your jobs and divide it up into 3 and hire some of these folks. These are the folks that are looking to do something meaningful before they retire. My generation, we're kind of coming to the summit of our careers. We're getting kind of the top. And we're looking for some formal career. We want some formal ending to what we're doing, or something that's going to take us the next 10 years. That's really what we're looking for. It's about the next 10 years. They care about benefits. They care about retirement. They care about health. If you are offering benefits like that, speak to them when you're interviewing folks. Speak to them when you're hiring. Put it in all of your promotional stuff, because especially younger generations, millennials, definitely Gen Z, they don't know what a 401k is. They have no clue. They don't know what a flexible spending account is. They don't know how much health insurance costs. They don't know the benefit of these things. Take the opportunity to explain it to them in a way that makes sense. The millennials are still looking for a seat at the table, growth opportunities, ways to advance their career. They're prioritizing their pay and benefits and that opportunity, that ladder. And of course, they are now having children and they want their family life balance. They're maybe now affording a house for the first time, so wanting some pay increases because of that, recognizing where they are, and learning opportunities for the Gen Zs. These are folks, they're hungry. They're hungry, and they're not the ones coming in and saying, you know, I know what I can do for you, so create a path that's uniquely tailored to me. They're coming in and saying, just tell me what you want me to do. I'm happy to do it. Just tell me what you want me to do and pay me for it. Speaking to them is very important. They're very purpose-driven. They care about the value and the mission of the organization. But more than anything, they're really looking for some sort of a balance. And they are your technical natives. If you need to do something technical now, these are your people. Bring them in. They will tell you how to tell a story. Thoughts about this? Those of you who are in this room, what would you be looking for in your generation for the next career? What would you want to see? What would you guys want to see? What would be like, and not to get you in trouble with your current employers, of course, but just the ideas of maybe what you have with your employer. What's important to you in the job? What's important about your job?
Growth opportunity and work-life balance, those are probably two of the most important things.
Growth opportunity and work-life balance. Absolutely. Flexibility. Talk to me about that. What kind of flexibility?
I worked at home since 2007. Since before I had kids, and now being able to take care of all of that default parent stuff while I'm still working is invaluable.
Absolutely. And you know, a lot of employers think that if your butt is not in a seat in their office where they used to see that butt in that seat, that you're not being productive. A newsflash, data, all of the data is showing folks, by and large, your worst your C- players, yeah, they were C- players at home too. Maybe D, probably F. But your B+, your B on up players working at home, they kicked it hard. Even more that they might be a little burned out because they're at home working so hard, trying to validate their success. What about your job do you care about? What do you love about your job? You all are very quiet.
So I don't see anything on community connected here, but that's one thing I'm very proud of our company. Engagement in community. It goes a long way.
Community engagement, and it goes a long way. Okay, so this gets to the part that we're going to next. So we're just looking right now at what generations want. What does your company do that is different, that is cool, that speaks to people's core, that speaks to what they want professionally, just in their lives, just in their humanity? The fact that you do that is fabulous, and that is where we get to the issue of storytelling. Oh, actually, before we get there, I'm going to get to storytelling. Just a real quick slide on where to find these folks, all right? If you're looking for your Gen Zs or your traditionals, these are people that are part of your community. These are people that you know. These are friends, these are family members. They may also be within your community network. There may be some groups where retirees come together, and coming to them and seeing what purpose you can create for them, what pathways. Your boomers, they're on LinkedIn, they're networking. You're probably going to find them in those two areas. In all of this, I'm just going to tell you, headhunting. Unless you're looking at Gen Z's, headhunting. because literally everybody is posting a job on LinkedIn and Indeed. Again, LinkedIn, Indeed, ZipRecruiter, headhunting. You got to go out and find them. And I will tell you, as professional recruiters, we are professional headhunters, all of us who can say, we are recruiters. We're using the same tools that you have available to you. We're using Indeed. We're using LinkedIn. We're using ZipRecruiter. We may have some enhanced capabilities through our recruiting function, but we're doing the same key search term search for talent. We're doing it just like you are. But somebody needs to do it and reach out and say, hey, you want to come in? When we get to the millennials and to the Gen Zs, you really are looking at social media. Celebrating your company on social media, have your employees who are in these generations put their information out on social media, capture moments of inspiration that are cool, that speak to your corporate culture, put that out on social media, share it. I also work in the car wash industry, and you know, when they drop their car off, they'll take pictures of these cars going through the bays and put them up on social media as if like their baby is like, you know, it's like a little zip cam, like when you put your dog at the dog sitter, and here's a picture of your dog on social media. It's like, oh yay, share, share, share. Do the same thing. When we get to these folks, we really are focusing more on social media and storytelling. A moment about storytelling. You have a story to tell. If it's just a job and here are the benefits, that's interesting, but then you're not differentiating yourself from anyone. But if you have a strong community network, if you really celebrate collaboration and cooperation, if you really celebrate career opportunity, speak to it. Another example, this is storytelling, right? I also work in the janitorial sector. There's a great book called The Dream Manager. The Dream Manager is a book in janitorial sectors. Average turnover, 400%. Just think about that for a second. They have to hire their entire workforce 4 times in a year just to keep labor, to keep the contracts that they've got. So y'all think you've got problems. I mean, that's some serious stuff. The Dream Manager, what they did is they just said, you know what, we're going to hire a consultant to sit down with every single one of our workers. And of course, these are workers that are working at night. It's their third job, right? They're not dedicated. They never see their boss or their colleagues. They're out cleaning somebody else's garbage. But they hired somebody to sit down and say, what do you want to get out of life? Maybe they want an education. Maybe they want to buy a house. Maybe they want to become a citizen. Maybe they want to retool and open a small business of their own. And that coach sat with them to hold them accountability and to hold them accountable to come up with a strategy of how they could accomplish their dream. That business only paid for that consultant to sit down with those employees, and they reduced their turnover to 37%. Just by listening. Now that's a story. If you're dedicated to those employees, that's a story. What are you doing? What story can you tell? I'm so bad with this clicker. With that information, develop a SWOT analysis. What are your strengths as an employer? What are your weaknesses? What opportunities do you create for potential employees? And what are your threats? You want to obviously maximize your strengths and opportunities and minimize your threats. This is Business 101, right? We know all about this. Nothing special here. But you usually do this for your business. You usually do this for sales. You usually do this to do your market segmentation to figure out what product you want to put in one location and how you're going to do it, right? That's all that strategy. And then from there, you build a marketing plan. Do that for your employees. If you're looking to hire, develop a SWOT analysis on your business, who you're looking for, what boat they're in, and connect the dots. If you can swim upstream from your workplace to where they are and strategize how to find them, you will find them because you're being intentional and because you care. And what employee doesn't want to feel that? You do this for your business. You do this for sales, but you don't do it for most people. I'm not saying you don't, but most people don't do this for employees. Well, what's the point of sales if you don't have any employees to keep your promises? If you can't keep your promises because you don't have the employees, you just put a lot of effort fixing something that's halfway down your chain and not fundamental to your organization. Thoughts on this? All right, I'm going to stop asking you guys questions. Storytelling. Look at your career page. What does your career path page look like, where you post your position? Y'all have websites, probably. You put your jobs out there. This is Airbnb. It's a fabulous career path page. You can Google career path pages. This is where you look at your marketing effort and you say, this is our front-facing window to our potential employees. And speaking to them specifically. And what's great about this career site specifically is that it is a clear mission. It is inspiring, it is cool, it is a disruptive industry in a very old industry. Airbnb, there are now more Airbnb opportunities than all of the hotel rooms in all of the world combined. That's pretty cool, right? I want to be a part of that. They also define the type of their ideal employee. They know who they want to hire. They have spent the time paying attention to who they want to hire. And once they know who they want to hire, they capture the experiences, the storytelling of those employees to see where they are, right? They know who they want to hire. They look at their employee pool. They say, you're a perfect example. So are you. And you. You guys are all the perfect example of the employees that I want. And you have those. You have employees that are rock stars that you love, that you wish you could clone. Tell their stories. Use them as your prototype. Capture those experiences and use multimedia and video. Everybody's got an iPhone or a smartphone. Literally everybody in this room does. I guarantee you. Turn it to somebody else and say, hey, Sue, how come you love your job? I love my job because and here we are playing bingo, and here we are out doing community service, and here we are out doing this and that. Capture those videos and tell your story so that somebody who says, that kind of looks like me, and I kind of would like to do that. That will put you ahead of the game. Open applications and mobile friendly. An open application means basically all you have to do is say, yes, I wanna work here, and you're in. You put in the basic information. Virtually 90% of Gen Z, and I think probably millennials are along that line, they're not looking at they're not filling out job applications on their desktops, right? They're doing it on their phone. Where do they get hung up? What was the name and address of your last supervisor? What's your last supervisor's telephone number? What's the address of the high school that you went to 15 years ago? Tell me, nobody knows that off the top of their head, and I'm on my phone, so by the time I do one or two lookups to figure out what the address is, I don't even know the phone number. And, Steve, my boss, isn't even there anymore. Now, how am I going to, you know what? Never mind. What do you really need on your employment application? You need to know their name. You need to know whether they are legal to work in the United States, and you need to know if they're 18 years or older. You can figure out the rest later. But if you put all that stuff on your application, they're gonna bail. Look at your data. Make it easy. Tell your story. Make it easy. And think about the benefits. Now, storytelling, we already talked about that. Starbucks, they're paying college tuition, 401k, health insurance, and free Spotify premium. That's a thing. That's not insignificant. Spotify's $10 a month. That's a lot, right? And free coffee. Anyone who's working at Starbucks has to, by definition, like coffee, right? So you give it to them for free. What can you bring? What do you give? I mean, I think you're literally feeding America, either through growing or through selling or through distributing. How can you not tell a story about that? How can you not make that sexy and cool? That's sexy and cool. Make that sexy and cool. Help us feed America. In whatever context that looks like for you. And speak to the generation specifically. Do your storytelling. You know, so I actually was sitting next to a guy yesterday on a plane who designs the layout of interior auditoriums like this. And he said, yeah, he looked like a millennial. I don't know how old this fellow was, but he literally looked like he was 12. But he said, yeah, I've got my millennial. And I said, yeah, how's that working out with you and your millennial? He's like, it's fine. I said, I gave her good benefits. I gave her a travel plan. She wanted more than anything just to travel. So you know what? I give her like, I don't know, $100,000 in travel points. She can go wherever she wants. And I give her vacation. She can do that. She kills it. She wants travel. So they give her travel. And it's a tax-free benefit. So why not? And he said she doesn't even really want that much money. She wants to be able to work from home. She wanted an iMac. I got her an iMac. And she's happy. Good. What do your employees want? I kind of dig the whole travel thing too. So think about that. Think about what you're offering to your employees. Okay. So now we're talking about building teams. Any thoughts on this? Any questions on this? Anything? No. Yes, yes. That's a great question. What group should you be putting together in order to have these conversations? Definitely the people that are in that walk and talk and look like the person that you want to hire. They will know better their cohort and what makes them happy than anybody else. And if they say something, then you're like, what? Like, I want once a year to be able to go to, the Swan and Dolphin for a week or a weekend with my kids, right? And you're like, what? As if. How much does that cost? I mean, really, how much does that cost? It maybe cost $1,500 for you to be able to provide that for your employees. I'm not quite sure what Swan and Dolphin cost, but you probably know better than I do. But whatever it costs, let's say it costs $2,000. No way am I going to do that. Why not? How much is it going to cost? You're going to have to pay them $10,000, $15,000 more to come on board and work for you, and then you're going to have all of the benefit expenses and all the other stuff. What do they want? Ask them. Speak to that. So that's a really great question, Kristen. I think it's absolutely the people that you're trying to attract are the people that you should be asking. And again, I'm speaking a lot to Gen Z, maybe a little millennial, but on the other end, we have traditionals and we've got baby boomers that have something to give, and they are loyal. They will show up. They will keep their promises. There's no question about that. So do that for both. Any other thoughts on this before we get a little farther along? All right. I hope you all are enjoying this. Building your team. So what are the roles that you need to fill? And you're going to have different roles, right? But looking at them and imagine, what does amazing look like? Amazing in one role is not going to be the same as amazing in the other. I will tell you that there are certain things about me that are amazing, and one of them is not my attention to detail. The other one is not my ability to be on time. The other one is not my ability to retain things for a long period of time. I can do other things, but there's certain things I cannot do. And we're all like that. Because behaviorally, if we look at the DISC behavioral model, You can't be all things. You got to lead with a foot. You got to have a strength. And if you have a strength, by definition, you have to have a weakness. Those are going to differ. If you want somebody who's a rock star salesperson, you want them to be aggressive and competitive and a high sense of urgency and resilient and willing to take rejection and willing to go out there and really just be optimistic about what the next day is going to bring. That's interesting. But if you're looking at a customer service rep, you want them to be detail-oriented. You want them to be able to keep track of things. You want them to be good with customers. They're typically don't have a high sense of urgency. They typically are not as resilient. They typically start from the beginning, the middle, and the end, and they want to be able to do that. They are opposite the sales team. So looking uniquely at what makes your team awesome and tailor it to every single position. When interviewing, the ideal screening process that we recommend is that, oh my gosh, that is a very big boat. Sorry, I have a little ADD. See, this is why I'm not good at being detail-oriented. There's like a squirrel outside. Sorry, I have to talk about that. We recommend doing an initial screen, the first sort of pass to make sure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. Then testing. How many of you do behavioral testing? Good. I recommend behavioral testing. I mean, a lot of folks are like, for our front level hourly workers, if they fog a mirror, that's a good enough test for us. I get it. I do. I totally get it. But everyone else, I will tell you, as an HR professional, people fail because of their attitude, not because of their ability. And we spend way too much time focusing on their experience and like that old gut check. I think they're good. But you know what? Your gut does not tell you the truth. Your gut is not good. And if you think you're an awesome interviewer, that's great. You're not. Because there is no way of assessing somebody in an interview. It's just not good enough. So behavioral testing. And I will tell you, we use behavioral tests. Before we did it, we had a 70% success rate, which meant after 1 year, 70% of the people that we placed were still in those roles. That means 30% of the people that we placed washed out. And we have performance guarantees. That's we got some issues with that. We now have a behavioral test. We're now at about 94%. We'll never get any better than that because, stuff happens. But the only thing we did different was testing to really find out what's under the hood. So we strongly recommend that. So testing, behavioral interviewing, I'll tell you about that in a second. A follow-up interview, reference checks, and background checks. That's sort of your typical screening process. Nothing really spectacular about that. Anyone doing anything other than that or doing it differently than that? All right. In interviewing, whether you're doing this over the phone or not, there is a gold standard. The gold standard in interview is that you have a panel interview. Because if Steve comes to me, and then he goes to Joe, and then he goes to Victoria, after Steve goes and Joe and Victoria and I have a conversation, I might say, I thought he was a jerk. I kind of thought he was kind of, a little like sexist. I don't know. And Joe's like, no, he was great. And then Joe and I end up arguing about whose perspective was correct. The problem is we didn't witness the same phenomenon. So we can't have an articulate conversation about it. In a panel interview, you can. And you can get a diversity of perspectives that include both the people who are responsible for overseeing that person, maybe somebody who is a peer, but be careful of that because peers can get threatened in interviews and they can sabotage prospective candidates. But somebody who's an informal or formal leader within your organization. 3 is great, 4 is great, 5 is getting a little unwieldy. And then Preset the questions so that I know what I'm going to ask and you know what you're going to ask. And when you preset those questions, you're not likely to wander off and ask something discriminatory. Sit down, have that conversation, rotate the questions. Rotating questions is particularly important when you're doing a Zoom interview, because there's no like, all right, Joe, it's your turn, because Joe's not sitting next to you. And then it's like, you don't really know what the rotation is. So setting the rotation of questions beforehand, and then have your standard debrief. The rule of thirds. 1/3 of your hiring decision should be based on their experience, their resume. 1/3 of the hiring decision should be based on whether you liked them. How'd they show up? And then 1/3 of your experience of the hiring decision should be based on testing. That's what we recommend to our clients. So that's if you want to make sure that you're not getting swayed by your gut or something else that's flashy and pretty, that's the way to do it. And behavioral interviewing questions, it gets back to this boat. The best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. And if I were to ask you, have you ever built a book of business? You're going to say, yeah. But if I were to say, tell me about a time when you had to build a book of business, well, now I get some detail. Now I get some real texture. So understanding what that texture looks like. And does it ring true? That's not really how it works. I don't think he's really done this before. Or that sounds great. Tell me about a time when you were a boat in a storm, how you dealt with it. Tell me about a time, ... Your interview questions, behavioral interview questions, are just that. Tell me about a time, ... So hopefully that will be one thing you take away from here in your interviews. Always, always, always ask behavioral interview questions. And you can do that of references. They're not going to give you people who think that they're jerky, right? They're not going to give you references of people who hate them. But they may give you references of people who might be a little more honest if you ask them, can you tell me about a time when Steve had to deal with a difficult client situation? Even hardcore, nasty HR professionals like me, who are designed not to give you anything other than rank and serial number, might say, oh, well, since you asked, he does struggle a little bit with delivering bad news, whatever it is. Onboarding is the most important thing. I gave you a sheet that's at your desk. You don't have a desk. Forget I said that. At your chair. 22% of turnover happens within the first 45 days. 25% of all new hires are gone within a year. And that's in a standard company. That's not a high turnover company. What we don't do is pay enough attention to those first 45 days. We don't pay attention to it, and I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but I've shown up my first day of work, I got my dress on, my makeup, I'm excited, I'm like, yay, and they didn't even know I was coming. And they put me in an office, and no joke, there was some dude's old sandwich in the drawer. Nobody even looked. I did not feel particularly validated there. I did not feel particularly welcome. I give this to you because I want you to focus on the first 45 days. And I want you to start focusing on it before you bring that fabulous person that you just attracted by putting together your story and all of that work that you just did. You do all that work and you don't focus on this, you wasted it. You wasted it. So what this does basically is, what are the learning objectives that employee should learn every single week? You start with the first week. And not only what are the learning objectives, but also who's teaching? And at the end, how do they do? So that shows the employee that you're thinking about them, they know what to expect, you know what to expect, the employee who's training them knows that they're on duty, and then there's feedback at the end. You did a great job with this, Steve. I don't know why I'm picking on Steve. You did a good job with this, Claire, but you could work a little bit more on this, so we're going to roll that forward to the next week and add these things to the learning objectives. This is simple. This is a simple tool. This is transformative because it helps set the expectation, provide accountability of who's going to do that teaching, and then critically giving feedback at the end. Once you've done that, then we have the issue of employee engagement. And this is also one of your handouts. These are the 12 things that are identified by people who are absolutely, totally, highly engaged. And when you ask them, what's important about your job? This is what they say is important. Very first important thing, I know it's expected of me at work. I have the materials and equipment to do my work right. Basic, fundamental needs. At work, I have the opportunity to do what I do best every day. In the last 7 days, I've received recognition or praise for doing good work. If you do nothing else, start giving positive praise and feedback every week to every employee. That will transform their engagement. We're good about not giving positive feedback. We should be doing this most of the time. My supervisor or someone at work seems to care about me as a person. There's someone at work who encourages my development. At work, my opinions seem to count. The mission or purpose of the company makes me feel my job is important. I'm wandering around and I can't see where I'm going. My coworkers are committed to doing good quality work. I have a best friend at work. And that doesn't mean that they hired their best friend. That best friend of work is somebody who you've been working together for so long that they become a best friend, right? In the last 6 months, somebody at work has talked to me about my progress. In this last year, I have had opportunities at work to learn and grow. You want an inspired, engaged workforce? Focus on that. What's not on there? Pay. Pay is not on there. You don't need to be a Google with a zip line through your lunchroom. You just need to take care of their basic needs, care about them as an individual, focus on their team experience, and show them growth. Easy peasy stuff. And I'm going to leave you, I'm going to just skip through because I'm almost done. I'm going to leave you with a proverb. It's a Chinese proverb, and that is that the fish rots from the head down. So if you're a rotten fish head, you can do all this stuff, and ultimately it's not going to change. But you don't have to be a rotten fish head. And the nice thing is if you're a healthy fish, then you can inspire that throughout your entire organization. So focus on what matters to your potential employees and your current employees, and tell your story. Oftentimes, business leaders focus on the bottom line, but you're not going to have a bottom line if you don't have employees that you can hire and engage. And it's just going to get harder. It's not going to get any easier in the coming months, if not years, because we don't, as these generations move off, it's just going to continue to get tighter, especially with hybrid workforce. So with that, I am grateful that you have spent this time with me this morning. I'm actually going to be at the What's New stage at 4 o'clock today to talk about having an emotionally healthy and engaged workforce. Talking a lot about some of the pieces that we had here, but really more having a conversation with you. But I would love to, if there's any questions before we wrap up, I have 2 minutes. Yeah.
What are employers looking for now? Is it more, longevity in the job, or, I remember before, you had to move from position to position every 3 or 4 years for you to be active. And some employers are like, no, I want somebody that's been there a long time, but I want to take you away.
I think employers are they're of mixed minds. I think the ones who are the most rotten fish heady type employers, I just want new and improved. I want young. I just want young. And they're unicorns, right? We, as recruiters, we get asked, can you find somebody who's about 28 years old, who has maybe 15 years of experience and a $2 million book of business, right? So I think it does matter, but the truth is, and you all will see that, most people can't really grow to their full potential unless they job hop. And I think that's still a challenge, especially with the tight competition that we have today. I don't know if that really answers your question. Okay. Can I get Any other questions? Another question, yeah. Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. And I think, and so I don't know if you could hear that, but the issue was it's hard to provide flexibility to the employee when the employer doesn't have that capacity to have the flexibility because the industry is demanding things that make it very difficult to have that flexibility. And I get that. But that's what your employees want. And if there is a way, and it is a very mission-driven company that stands up and says, you know what? We've decided that we're going to go to a 4-day work week, and I understand that you want these certain things. We will ramp up our labor force in order to provide that flexibility, but this is important, and we care about, you want loyalty. The only way somebody can be loyal to you as an employer is if they feel like you care, is if you're taking care of those 12 elements that we talked about. And the problem now is if you can't give them that flexibility, someone else can. So I think it takes bravery now to stand up and say, I know this is the way this industry goes, and this is the way the industry is, and we're going to do it differently. And we're going to hope that we have better results as a result of that. That's optimistic, and you may think it's pie in the sky, but you got to start somewhere. You know. Any other questions? Yeah.
Lots of companies right now are offering sign-on bonuses. Do you see that as something that is helping, something that's sustainable, and something that will have longevity?
So sign-on bonuses. I think it is helpful. And the reason why they do that is because if they just offer more pay, they whack out their internal compensation structure. And you also have to add all these benefits onto it. And then once you start at that higher level, you're stuck there. Like you can't ever take that away. So the sign-on bonus is a great way to get folks in. And it maybe you have a sign-on bonus for like 3 years, or you do some other incentive program like that. I don't know how sustainable it is in terms of how long it will live, because if and when the economy takes a hit for different reasons than the economy is currently taking a hit, and if we see more labor opportunity, and we're not competing against each other, you probably won't have those sign-on bonuses. But they are kind of the trick up the sleeve of an employer who needs to hire somebody and has a tight labor market. Yeah, and then, is this my last question? Or am I? Okay, this is my last question. Yeah.
What's your thoughts on like college recruiting? So like our company's done really well over the past couple of years with picking 4 or 5 colleges that have degrees that are to our company, and then when we found it through internships and hiring them on full time, then they go back and become almost ambassadors, talking to their other friends at college, and it becomes almost a pipeline for new employees in.
So if you're asking me what I think about that, I think, yay. I mean, I think that is, there's only 3 things you can affect when you're hiring. You can only affect what experience you're looking for, what pay you're going to give, and the geography in which you're going to work. And if you can make that easier, if you can go easy on the experience and train up, you now have more people. If you can give people the pay that they want, you now have more people. If you can expand the geographic footprint of who you can hire, you now have more people accessible to you. So going at them when they're young, giving them a career path, giving them respect, giving them a week of vacation at the Swan and Dolphin, whatever it is, yes, 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 all day long, yes. Thank you all so much for sharing your morning with me, and I will be again wandering around the floor. I'll be outside if anyone wants to grab a business card or chat more, and come visit me on the What's New Lounge at 4 o'clock, I hope.